Sterring, pictures and buttons, is Sterring, they're like Sterring.
Hey, I'm Kunta.
And I'm Peta.
Welcome to Black Sterring Radio, a podcast where we dissect TV shows, films, music, and culture
To ask how black women are represented and seen on screen.
Hi.
Hello. Bada bing, bada bam.
Bada bing.
Hi.
How are you, Peter J?
I mean, I've been better. I've been worse.
I see.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Go busy.
Kupis.
Very busy.
Cool.
Ay.
You know?
You know,
Get a
but
breath.
honestly,
I hate being too busy. I
God
hate
bless
it.
April. God bless
Right?
Jesus for faking his own death this weekend.
Gosh, like,
And just
April always feels like
genuinely,
another festive season.
Because it's all the short weeks
Yes,
together.
you know?
Cannot wait to rest as
Cannot
the
wait
Lord
to
intended.
argue.
I'm very excited.
Listen, hey, Jesus rested.
Shout out to Jesus.
Why are we not resting?
But
Who are
also,
we? Who
when
do
you
we
think about
we
that
are?
story, it's kind of nuts.
What, the Jesus story?
The Easter story that he faked his own death. And then on
fake his
Easter
own death?
Sunday, he was like, hey.
Did he fake his own death? Or
I
did
mean, he was
die?
kinda
In the
dead,
Bible, he
and then-
died.
And then he was like,
Yeah.
I'm back.
It's a miracle. Miracles happen.
It is.
Miracles indeed happen.
When you believe.
People have died and come back to life.
All of the stations of the cross. I remember all of the stations of the cross
What is all
from
of the
school.
stations of the
You
cross?
know the different, like when they put the cross on his back and then he had to take the journey. Yeah, like
Oof, I remember.
Yeah,
Do you remember
yo.
that movie?
crucifix.
What Death of Christ or whatever that.
Oh,
movie-
Passion of the Christ?
Christ. Oh,
With Mel Gibson.
that was too much. That
yeah, it
movie
too
was
much.
so much, and all the churches were making us watch it.
It was too much.
Hands up if your church made you watch it. And I bawled. We were all like crying. It was just too much. Like, oh my gosh, gratitude.
It's not a fun
Okay.
story, to be honest. It's not.
It's not.
What I do watch
Oh,
every
Jesus.
Easter is The Prince of Egypt. I
Oh,
have
Prince
to.
of Egypt is
That is one of the best animation movies of all
It
time.
actually reminds me of Aladdin.
Oh, Allah. Don't you open your... Also, People Bryson, people don't talk about People Bryson as a voice of Disney
Bryson and-
because he
and-
also
and
did
the-
Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yes, beauty.
Please. And what was the song that always play on Disney? Tonight I celebrate
People
my love.
Bryson,
His that rich voice.
Oh, ballad voices.
Yeah.
Where
He was so good. He was good with Celine. He was good with Regina. It was just good.
Regina is who he did.
Regina. He did a whole new
Regina.
world
And I
with
loved
Regina.
as well.
Their voices
hey.
blended so well together.
Right, love a duet.
But also, we really did grow up in the golden era of Disney, which is why
golden hair.
all of the remakes were all like, ew, what is this?
But Disney's not bad. I mean, I guess that's the late age of the golden age of Disney is the actual app, and it's not bad. Disney's not bad.
Like,
you
it's
know?
not,
It's not bad.
there's no new content as much.
Would there be?
Everything
On
is just
Disney?
a remake, though.
I feel like that's the Disney template. They just rely
They remake,
on this.
it's live action remakes.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, as opposed to Apple. Oof, and Apple is just.
Apple, hey,
Apple
they are
is
swinging out the
nice. They are
gate.
spending that money
Oh
for
my
that
gosh.
crisp,
Do you know what?
cinematography.
I
Yeah?
found out the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
They're not allowed. There was a tweet. Someone was asking people to tweet random fun facts about stuff. Just because she was like, I want to know more about stuff. So tell me fun facts about anything.
Yeah.
Apple, villains in movies aren't allowed to have Apple phones. How weird is that?
This
So
is
there's
so
a contract and clause that they have that says that only protagonists are allowed to have iPhones.
Smart.
Villains in films are not. So it's like such subliminal
Yeah, it is.
subliminal
That's really
messaging
product
that
placement
like
in there.
the villain will have an Android, which is so crazy. I'm
But
like,
it's also
what?
so Apple, just like
it's so Apple to do that.
monopolizing
It's so
and
Apple to do that.
How is it that we all have the same phone? All of us.
Do you
have the
know
same
what's kind of
phone?
sad? People are not inventive with phones anymore. Remember how they used to flip and twist and turn and hey, razors. I always wanted a razor. I was very upset that I didn't have one.
But it's just
But I
like,
did have the
does
Sony Ericsson, that
everyone-
the Walkman phone, the one that
Yeah,
would
there was the
spin around
BlackBerry as
and
well. There were all
yeah,
sorts.
like
Nokia
different
was giving us
colors,
all
different. It's just like
sorts.
invention. And then Steve Jobs said this, and then no one wanted to progress past The
Apparently,
rectangle.
like in the States,
And that's it.
you can't even, it just is, it works against you if you don't have an iPhone. And I feel like that is
That's interesting. America
like
is such
the
a strange
monopoly.
place sometimes.
But I mean, it's America. What happens in America then happens
to the
rest
yeah,
of the world.
yeah.
It's like,
in a lot of
it's
ways, yeah.
such a monopoly. Like, and the iPhone is, guys, I'm not a fan. Android. I'm an Android
I
girly
mean-
to this day. I don't, I know we
Where's the
have
camera?
them. I know we have
We will
them.
agree to disagree. I'm a fan of an iPhone.
Because
I've
of the
had an
camera
iPhone.
quality? Or
No,
what?
I've had an
Tell me.
iPhone for so long. I have had an iPhone
okay.
since iPhone 5.
Oh yeah,
5?
so back in the day.
Yeah, like
those
way
little
back in the day. The
ones.
small used to be so small, so cute. I miss that old iOS. But yeah, like I really liked it. I really liked the
Why?
operating system.
Hey, tell me why.
I like the feel of it. I like the aesthetic. I like how integrated it is because I have other Apple devices.
Yeah,
so for me, it just works.
There is
It works.
that.
It's synced up. The integration.
Oh.
Have I drank the Kool-Aid?
You're forced.
Absolutely.
You're
I'm
forced
very
to sync
aware
up.
that I'm part of the capitalist system. But I mean, I had an iPod,
Oh.
and then it started with an iPod, which I
Oh,
absolutely
iPods,
adored.
guys.
I adored having an
Hey?
iPod. Bring back iPods. iPod, and then it was the phone, and then later
Yeah.
it was the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a
Yeah.
sponsored ad, but
But
yes.
sponsor us, definitely. Apple. Give us that Apple money.
Hey,
we would love
wouldn't be
some of
mad
that
at it.
Apple
But
money.
yeah, it's interesting with their shows because they never advertise them. It's just like
Yeah,
at
you
all.
know?
You just if you
And I
find
mean,
it, you
I
find
feel
it. If you don't, you don't.
I feel like Apple does their marketing quite subliminally, like you said. Like they have a subtle subtext to their marketing, and even their ads are usually
The product
very
ads,
human.
very cool.
There's an integrative human part of your lives, which is like, and which they are, it's like
Yeah.
you would expect for a tech brand to go all futuristic, like most of the other brands go, but like
But they
Apple's
always
strategy,
feels very
that's
grounded,
why I kind of enjoy it, because
yeah,
it's like
the marketing is cool.
it's really cool.
It's
The
cool.
marketing
I
is
remember
not
even
in
the
your
COVID
face.
ads where they were speaking to just like video calling and FaceTimes and like I think the premise was like people working at an office and still having to connect via phone or via FaceTime,
yeah.
sharing screens and doing
Yeah,
things.
there's
And
that.
they are kind of Apple is kind of in the same place that Nike, that even a Nando's is, where like you don't have to overtly sell the thing for us
which
to
is a great
want the
place to
thing,
be.
which is a great because Nando's can talk shit about politics and not talk
Yeah.
about chicken.
Yeah.
Talk about chicken at the end.
Not talk about how
Even
expensive
Nike is not
their
like
chicken
this is how much the
is.
shoe is. They're always like athleticism,
Yeah.
professionalism,
Themes,
Serena Williams,
themes,
blah blah
yeah.
blah. You know what I mean? Like they get to play in the themes because they've done so
Yeah.
much brand building,
They have,
which is cool.
yeah.
And
It's
also
great.
like the social capital that those brands have at this point is massive.
Capitalism up your ass.
Peaking.
hey.
But anyway, yeah, this is
Yes.
not about advertising because that is
This
a
is actually
whole other
really,
episode
this
on
is
its
my
own.
favorite. Preparing for today's show, I
So much fun.
was having so much fun.
Before we get into that,
Probably my
should we
favorite
do
show for
content of the
today.
week?
Probably my favorite show. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and speed past things. The
Okay.
first, since we're talking about Apple, and now it's in my brain, is The Studio. It's a new show with Seth Rogen. He is the new head of one of these big Hollywood studios, and it basically plays around with this idea of yeah, I know, from like Knocked Up to this.
Ah.
Look at him go. But yeah, it's basically playing around with the concept of like he's this new head of one of these big, think of a Universal, like one of these big Hollywood studios.
Okay.
And he's someone who loves film, but then it's the whole thing of like, if you're at the top, are you allowed to make the kind of movies you want to make, honor the craft and the art of film, or are you going to cave and just make money with like big
Yeah.
blockbusters? Yeah, so I mean, it's a question that can apply to so many industries on like creativity versus capital.
Media as well.
Advertising, music, all of it. Yeah, so that's been really cool. And then the other content is The Emancipation of Mimi by Mariah Carey. I just had its 20th anniversary, which always feels weird when
To say
albums you've
20
listened to
years,
for so
yeah.
long have big anniversaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been cool to revisit as an adult, as someone in her 30s, because she wrote it when she was in her mid-30s, and it was like her comeback album after the glitter debacle and all of that stuff. So there's like a deluxe album coming out, and there's a remix with Kate Renata from Don't Forget About Us. So like
because of the
they've
anniversary.
been so there've been a lot of cool things and like interviews, and like I think it's been a really nice time to have conversations around women in their 30s and them almost going viral again, because I even think of Janet Jackson and Someone to Call My Lover as being viral again on TikTok, and just people talking about how debated.
Janet is definitely 40.
Yeah, she's older now, but when she came out with Someone to Call My Lover, she was in her 30s.
Okay.
So there've been a lot of conversations around how people, the music industry can be very ageist, but there's a lot of arguments that show that women artists have had their biggest success in their 30s. Okay. And not necessarily as like fresh spring chickens when they were 19 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah, I think of Rihanna as well.
Like their biggest auntie was like, so like, it's been cool conversations, but that's my content. A lot of music from women in their 30s, just doing their thing.
And I have
having fun, being in their renaissance, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and I love that. I love being in my 30s, of course, and older women being like, come to your 40s, come to your 50s.
Yeah,
really
it gets
great.
better.
It really is great growing up. It's not easy, but it is fun.
Yeah, 30s do feel fun. It doesn't feel that as scary as people made it seem.
I don't know if I ever thought it was scary. I was like, I guess, growing old is always, or growing up. 30, 40, there's a narrative, there's a propaganda around age, and that's ageism. And the media as well, it's but you actually realize it's like freedom, it's freeing. It's beautiful. Growing old is my favorite thing, actually. My content, Standard Bank Young Artist Awards. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Really cool. And I enjoyed, of course I enjoy, I also want to shout out Collective Amnesia by Kollega Putuma, who is one of my
goodness
poets.
That was a book.
Kollega Bra, as well as her performances, and she's got like she's the co-founder of her own media house, Mañano Media, and I'm just like, and she's like, it's this concept as well that I heard, or I kind of gleaned last week when I went to, again, my second content, Milisutando, I think it was
that docu, yes. You told us about it last week. How was it?
It was wonderful. And in the Q&A, she spoke about this care filmmaking, care in, or sort of how women approach things in a sort of nourishing, nurturing way in their work. So it's kind of reflected in the industries. It's nice to be able, and Millie pointed out as well that she feels as a filmmaker and like moving into filmmaking was interesting because she, women are left out. Women, the shooting is and just the process, the production process is very masculine. It's very male driven. It's like, of course, like the equipment is one. Ooh, sorry. The equipment is one part, but it's also just like the framing. Just everything is so heavily masculinized. And anyways, so Standard Bank. That was really great to see the artists out.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy that initiative.
It's really cool.
It's really cool. It's
very,
really
very cool celebration of the arts.
Yeah,
and it's different facets.
And it's
very cool.
It's a nice event. People looking good there. And then my last is Bantu Records, who
yes, shout out to Bantu Records. Yes,
and the vinyl culture. Just love the fact that
it's back.
Yeah,
it feels back. Like, or rather, physical media feels like it's slowly coming back through vinyl.
Yeah,
which
absolutely,
is cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are are adding vinyls into the channels.
Because we don't have musica anymore. Like there aren't as many spaces to buy physical,
and CDs are not a
media
thing anymore.
Yeah, like there are fewer spaces to buy physical media. So vinyl culture has been really nice in bringing that back.
I love that kind of dive culture because it comes with a culture. It comes with a community. It's like. Yeah, it's like this sharing of music and this discovery of music and this kind of discovery of an archive. That's what I love about Bantu as well. And vinyl stores is just like preserving this archive, the ever precious archive of music. I really love that. So yeah, those are mine.
Very cool.
Which is really
and Bantu
nice,
Records is now part of Neighborhood, right? In Parktown North.
They've moved to Neighborhood.
Yeah, I think, oh man, vinyls. It's been such a fun experience for me to like start a collection and like I don't have a record player, blah 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 blah.
Absolutely.
But like it's so interesting with vinyls because
we grew up with vinyls.
We grew up with vinyls with our grandparents, but also just
parents.
My parents were definitely more CDs, cassettes and CDs than vinyls.
My mom and my dad, we have tons of vinyls. Oof.
It's so interesting because in vinyls, I love that part of it is kind of digging and like a lot of it is super random. Oof. Like you just sometimes it's about the album artwork, other times because like you don't know what it's gonna sound like. So I like that it's also just like a game of dice. And you just kind of pick up all kinds of random things. It's a fun exercise, but it is also a great segue to today's topic.
I mean, vinyls for me are just so. Like when vinyls came back out, I was just like, this is just such an interesting, because the 90s are back. Like, home
it's such a full circle.
Home feels to be coming outside now because I mean, definitely it was vinyls for me and it was CDs as well. Like I was collecting CDs.
Same.
A whole bunch. I still, I have that collection for me. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
I'll never give it up.
What am I going to do with my
I'm going to keep
discs, bro?
I will keep the disc like I keep the DVDs. I'll keep it.
It will come back. I feel
Probably.
like just like vinyls have come back.
Yeah.
CDs are going to make their ways back. And then we have to get
CD players again. Oh my God, I used to love Walkman. Oh my gosh.
Walkmans.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what I used to miss about back then? How it wasn't... As much as technology has progressed in like you can do everything in one, there's something that I enjoyed about
is not the same
specific
sound.
Just having a specific tech to do a specific function. So a Walkman could only play CDs. You can't put a cassette in there. Versus like you have the boombox that can do the CD and the cassette. Versus an iPod is like the tech, but it's only for music and games. You can't make calls. You can't. It's just streamlined. And now I don't know. Like sometimes it does feel the fact that you can do everything. I'm like, it's cool, but I miss the separation a little bit,
and the feeling it in your hands, the tangible exchange of it. Like it's interesting with like discs and vinyls, like the how disheveled they usually are. Like
the scratches.
They're found art objects. At this point, they have this history and this like legacy because people have interacted with them.
Yes, and you would consume you would consume it more deeply because it's something that you own. It's something that you own for a reason. It was never throwaway. It was always like you bought the CD or even single. Remember singles used to be a thing, so you could buy. I remember having a Brandy "What About Us" single with all the remixes and all the things. So it's like, I own this thing. I'm going to listen to this thing until it has scratches. Until this is like, so you would just take it in. You're reading the lyric book. You know this music backwards and forwards. Whereas I think like because of streaming,
we've lost the human touch.
You've lost. It's kind of like you listen and you move on. Whereas like before we used to sit with the music because you'd physically like have it. You'd play it on road trips. You like,
dude.
There wasn't as much access. So it's also it's also been interesting because I remember somebody even saying to compare numbers or someone was saying we need to separate how we scale even numbers for artist sales. So they were like, it's not fair to put streaming versus physically buying CDs in the same
different act
bracket because
behavior.
We physically had to leave our house versus like I stream this.
And I also I feel like it's also affected listening. Like
100%.
You don't listen the same.
People are passive listeners. 100%.
We're just like listening in the background, and it's also affected the quality of the music that's coming out. I think
I agree for sure. Yeah,
and the stuff that's coming out. But hey,
there's a lot of good stuff that's coming out.
There is.
Which is how we will segue into today. The
No,
good
there
stuff that's
definitely
coming
is.
out.
I mean,
so
jazz.
today we're going to talk about South African jazz,
Oh,
which we feel is right now some of the best jazz, if not the best jazz in the world. Okay,
Yeah.
we are knocking it out of the
Forever.
park
yeah.
these days. But yeah, I think where I wanted to start was where your love of jazz started, or like what was your first experience with jazz, if you can remember.
Jazz has always been it for me. Like, jazz is the first thing I ever listened to.
Mhm.
My dad loved jazz. My dad was a music head, like all sorts, jazz, R&B. And then my mom as well, you know. So we listened to a lot of jazz. And that's where my love for rock, my love for then hip hop, then, you know, started. It was just jazz. It was jazz. Like Sundays was to the point where I was like, please, I don't want to listen to Paul Hamner today. I don't want to listen to, you know, like it was like there was that bluesy jazz as well that was like really like sort of a monotonous, like deep hectic jazz. So yeah, like my love for jazz is kind of I just was born into the jazz. And yeah, so for me jazz has always been, and it's interesting, the evolution, or I don't know if bringing it back is one thing, you know, because some of us have been listening to jazz. We listen to jazz every day, every week, you know. So I love how it's coming back.
I get it.
Sense.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
being re-upped or whatever in
Yeah.
the age of
100%
because
get what you
absolutely,
mean.
man.
As it should be.
South
so I
African
think
jazz is elite, bruh.
It
It's
is.
elite.
so for
It's
me,
academic. It's everything.
I think so for me,
Where
like
did
I
yours
have a
start?
different experience a little bit.
Yeah.
So my dad was also heavily into jazz. All kinds of music, all kinds of jazz.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to get it. So I would get like Hugh Masekela. It's like, okay, I get Hugh Masekela.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what the kind of jazz I connected to first was the vocalists. So like Sibongile Khumalo,
Yes.
Judith Sipuma.
Bosman.
That Judith Sipuma, the cry, the smile, the dance that everybody had in their house. So for me, I connected to the vocalist, and then later in high school, it was getting into like the classic, the Coltrane and Miles Davis and those kinds of things that he had, where I was finally like, okay, I can listen to this and enjoy it. And then I found these CDs that he had. It was like those trilogy box set situations that they used to have. So there was one with jazz vocalists, and the one CD was Sarah Vaughan, whose voice I absolutely love.
Absolutely.
And then the other was Aretha Franklin doing jazz, like before her popular the pop R&B era as we know her for. So she was doing jazz before that. And then the last one was Ella Fitzgerald. And it was like some original songs, some jazz standards, but their voices were so beautiful. I mean, obviously like the three of them are like the voices. But yeah, I think I connected to like women singing jazz before I got into like just the instrumentation purely. That was probably like late in high school going into varsity, where I would study to jazz music, because I found it wasn't as distracting, because I felt like with other genres I'd end up singing along.
That's the thing as well. It's
distracted.
a lovely backdrop.
So it felt really nice to center. And as you said, like I do feel almost the resurgence of jazz, especially right now. It feels like jazz has a younger audience. I mean, you even have entities like Kids Love Jazz by Nairobi and like
Kids Love Jazz.
and they're all these different entities, and we are now the people who are going to the Cape Town Jazz and Joy of Jazz and like all of these different. But South African has had such a long jazz culture for a long time. Like I remember years and years back going to a Michael Bublé concert with my mom, and he was talking about, and I mean, I'm always a sucker for when the artist starts talking to the audience, but he was saying he'll always come back and play in South Africa because he was like, I don't think you guys know how big your jazz culture is here, but this was the country where I blew up. So I will always come back and play here. And I found that so interesting because I guess I didn't think about it like that. But we do listen to a lot of jazz, like all the kinds of jazzes in the country, which is really cool.
And I wanna. You mentioned instrumentation because that's what it is, right? And And that fed into a lot of like classical music, you know. I think, like, I definitely feel like whether it's jazz or classical, but I'm always going to just stick to jazz, is the basis of every genre. Like,
100%.
Because instruments, right?
Because instruments, yeah.
And it's that then moving. And it's also just like in South Africa, I'm at jazz concerts.
Yeah.
Jazz concerts in the hood. It started
everywhere.
Like Soweto, Regina Mundi, Tembisa. Like people
Elanga,
jazz,
still
jazz,
to today.
Jazz,
Yeah.
Yes, Durban,
Yeah.
Cape Town, you know, like in the hoods. Like,
yeah,
people
like
are
jam
listening.
sessions.
Yes, jam sessions.
There.
Picnic,
do you know
getting
what I mean?
drunk and violent in the hoods, but
Yeah.
like having a jazz concert is something so quintessentially South African.
1,000%.
And you know, I know we have some coming up now, right? We
Yes,
have,
yeah.
The Cape Jazz I miss.
Yeah, so that's end of April, and then Joy of Jazz is usually September.
Yes,
September,
Joy of Jazz
yeah.
is September.
So there's also, but there was also Jazz in the Lights that happened in March as well. So that's usually at Emerencha, and there was Tandiswa and a few other people. So we do have like a lot of jazz events. There's spaces like the Artivist where you can go and listen.
Absolutely.
And like, there's so many, because even now I'm like, so what I do like about jazz the most is that it's such a good, thorough understanding and retelling of South African history.
Yeah.
In a way that no other
you know?
genres quite do that as well as jazz, I feel like. From when I think of the artists who were talking about what is happening in South Africa during apartheid, the Hugh Masikelas, the Miriam Makebas in exile, singing about Soweto blues or whatever that was, and then like just like the Abdullah Ibrahims and Manneberg and Andile Yanana and Tembisi, you know, like jazz has always signified our history, the spaces, the just like the connection to the people, and in a way that has felt very thorough. It always questions society, questions the government, if I think of people like the Brother Moves On as well, and like Kujenga, and like just the question of like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And it feels, I mean, at its basis and at its roots, jazz was always quote unquote struggle music, like from its origins in New Orleans. So you can always feel that element, but you can also feel the celebration element in it almost. So it's always such a nice balance. Yeah. And then also I like that jazz is just organized chaos, because sometimes it's, do you know what I mean? Because it's like, we're going on for 11 minutes. But there's still movement in the song.
Fela Kuti's music going on for half an hour.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like one song.
Where is that? You know, you can't. Yeah. You can't. And it's like, that's the freedom that jazz kind of allowed artists and musicians to kind of jam. Yeah, session.
Like just go.
That's where we get into music. We jam. Jam sessions are key to jazz, you know. And also, doing my research, I was like, you know, what is it specifically about South African jazz? And it is that political history as well, that we, you know, your Miriam Makebas, your Hugh Masikelas, your Dolly Ratebes, your Abdullah Ibrahims, who were activists through the music, who were speaking about what the hell
of the times
was going on in South Africa. And of course, Miriam Makeba and Nina Simone's relationship feeds into that as well.
1,000%.
How, you know, guys, Miriam Makeba was like a fire starter.
She was the girl.
She was, and I loved her calm composure in how she would tell people how bad it is in South Africa, how people are exploiting Black people, how people are exploiting, you know, her own families and whatever, you know, and also with South African jazz, it is the cultural indigenous African music imprint. It's like our instruments, feeds into Baqanga, Maskandi,
you can hear Maskandi,
it's Black
you can
ass music, because music for us is like, it's our tradition. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
We see what's what we do when we wake up, when we're having weddings, when we're having, you know, when we're having meetings, it's like, even it's how what we do. It's important.
And what I want to say about that is like, even as South Africans, the way that we talk we use onomatopoeia a lot, we use sounds, and for me, like, one of my favorite things is how, because we have such a deep music culture in this country, even from house and all these other things, like we sing instrumentals.
Yeah, we do.
We are so literally at shows, even at whether it's a jazz show It doesn't matter what. We will be like, bara, 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 bara. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone is
beautiful.
Fela Kuti will come on at a party and everyone ba 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 ba.
Like,
Do you know what I mean? Like we will sing all the brass section and people will hit the drums and the hi-hats and the whatever. And
absolutely.
Like we it's almost like we feel every part of the music in every genre, and you can tell even when people come and perform here, they're always taken aback how like we sing everything. Yeah. We were there at Kate Renata, like, do you know what I mean? Like
sing
everyone
the
was
lyrics and the music.
And it's so entertaining, but it's also just so us.
Yeah, we've embodied the music,
and you can and it even carries through to like the dancing aspect of it.
Absolutely.
In how like you can tell that it's a South African when there's a South African dancing. The same way when even when trends start on a TikTok or whatever, when other people do the dance challenges that start here, it never looks the same because it almost feels too choreographed. Yeah. Like there's a looseness in the rhythm and of how we do things that you can't duplicate unless you're from here. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I love about like the jazz and the music and just like the way that we are is that it's very us. You can always tell that it's like, even without seeing what the name of the song is, you can feel that like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's so interesting you talk about dance styles as well, because that's also a musical, like it comes from, we dance to the music, we embody the music. And our dance styles like Pantsula and Tukwasa, whatever it was, complicated. That's why it is that organized chaos that we have. There's this part in the music where or in our
dance
dancing,
break.
Yes, in the dance break. Even in our dancing, it's actually quite Pantsula is not easy.
Pantsula's complicated.
I know Beyonce tried.
Hey, she tried it.
But Pantsula is
like the footwork.
It's complicated. It's complicated, you know, and it speaks to the music. The music is complicated. It's complicated, but it's also just soulful. It's like, and there's a beat to it, and it's almost like you cannot. Black people are always looking for the beat, for the rhythm, for the please can we, you know, even in the distortion, because I think of jazz as well, deep jazz, your blues. There's like there's a crazy acid jazz, you know, but then we will always come back around to the rhythm. Please give the people something to bop their heads to. Like that's really, really important. But also I wanna go back to Marabi jazz, which is like it's the origin. It's the origins of
our
jazz, you know. The Kwela, which is characterized by, you know, penny whistles, and I wanna point out that South African jazz is actually instrumentally characterized by the horn section. Like that's us. Yes, that's us. And you see the brother moves on as well. Yeah, with all of us. Like it just. Horn section, and it is a key feature of Marabi jazz as well. So Firetown jazz, it's like the trombone, and I love a horn section.
Oh, I love the horn section.
I love it.
Give it to me.
I mean, Hugh Masekela, our best jazz export.
Do you know what I mean?
Hey,
grazing in
Hugh Masekela.
You know. He was excellent.
Excellent.
He really was. I mean, politically a problematic fave in some of his takes in the later years.
There was that thing with Hugh Masekela where he would point out black women in weaves.
I don't even want to get into that. There is always, and I also want to segue into women in jazz as well. Yes,
you know,
please,
because there's always a male.
It feels like a male sport.
Yeah, you know, why does it? Just like hip hop, you know, it's always
and then it's always like this
when
push
you
and
look
pull.
at the women in jazz, you're like, no, it's always women carrying this.
Why do and
it's always because it's
constantly getting
well,
discredited?
Like,
yes, because even when you think of Utandiswa and like, I mean, which is also good to bring up because she had the song Tanai with
and she
but even
she
that
loves with
what they're talking about,
you know.
That song,
Tanai,
yeah, I'm like, I mean,
getting married,
you're a fat shaming.
Just like, but the song goes.
Oh, that song goes. It goes. But yeah, like even Tandiswa probably like one of the biggest
Yeah, absolutely.
Female voices in jazz
Yeah.
right now, from I mean bongo, Marvin to Zabalaza, all the way to now,
absolutely.
and the Zoe Mudijas and the like. It's still women.
It's still women
in
like
front.
carrying it. I also think of Dunokwe and Simpiwe Dana as well. Tandintuli, my favorite, of course. Gloria Bosman, guys.
Yeah,
Who
like there's
rest
so
in
many
peace.
people.
Like just
Leta Mbulu as well. Like there's, do you know Dorothy Maso? Like there's
so many, and voice as well in jazz is a different story because it's not always there.
Yes,
vocal is an instrument, and it's not always featured in a jazz album. It's not necessary.
But when it is, I do want to segue to the technique of jazz singing.
Yes,
because scatting, is very, very, very technical.
It is.
You can't just.
It is. Yeah.
And I always think of Sibongile Khumalo first.
Yes.
And
how she
what
was
is
like
that song? Because she's also an opera singer and then also did jazz.
Yes.
And like, it's so like singing jazz is so technical. You need so much range.
It is. Because it's academic.
Yeah. It's academic. And you have to like, the runs and the scats, all of that, you have to stick the landing. And it's so easy to like fumble it.
Hey?
But jazz singers are really good. And even like to the vein of the Spongiles, I do think of Zoe, which like her voice, incredible. Like the stretch, the range, and like technical.
And she was trained, right? She was
trained. Like she was going to music school and like
jazz as well.
Yeah, which I do like. Like jazz is something that can be studied.
Yeah.
For a reason.
And it's like, it's also interesting. I think it is that way with a lot of music. There is a lot of purism or purity
100%.
in it, where we've studied it, and we know the lineage, and we know what are the greatest compositions, what's the right kind of composition. But I always go back to music is for everybody, and I think South African jazz is also it belongs to everybody. Everyone is so personal and like defensive about jazz and hip hop and amapiano, like, and we have that, and it's like, and also how jazz then. Modern jazz almost, moving into the 90s and the 80s kind of fed Kwaito, the Kwaito
It did.
sound,
it was sampled a lot in Kwaito,
Like, I think of Don Laka, who's my favorite as well, whose sound is very key in a lot of Kwaito, like your Brothers of Peace, your Trumpis, your Oskidos, like they actually all worked together, like.
And I do love that because it's also and it's even interesting now because Andile Yenana, who did his most famous song, probably Tembisa, The People, he was sampled by J. Cole without getting credit for that. And it was a whole big mess where it's like
J. Cole's just
you have like you can clearly see the value in South African jazz and South African music, and we're still continuing that era of like, okay, it was sampled for Kwaito and now it's being sampled for hip hop, but like people don't always get the credit, which is quite crazy to me. Yeah. And I was watching an interview where they were asking him about it, and like if they ever spoke to him about asking to use the song, and he was like, nobody called me about this. Like, I got a call from my manager and the label being like, hey, they used your song.
Oh, and Dileanan.
Yeah, so it's like you're only finding out after the fact when it's released that like they sampled your song.
What is up with that?
Which is quite crazy that you can still do that. And then but I feel like, is that an issue of like copyright? Is it because the one gripe that I do have with South Africa is that we are very, very bad at archiving our cultural history. Regulation is terrible. We're terrible at archiving. There's so much history that's just lost because it's not archived properly.
So true.
And it's like, where do we go to find out about all this stuff? Like, there's so few spaces that are left. What are the
copyright rules? Where are the bodies?
You surely shouldn't be allowed to do that. Where are the
regulation bodies?
Yeah. And like, there are whole systems and there's a whole industry of music that's kind of just like shrugged. And again, like, it's sad because music is one of our biggest exports as a country, from piano to jazz to whatever it is. But musicians are still not getting paid the way that they should be getting paid.
Hey? And
it's sad almost, because that is also why I'm always like, go see the music live. Like, let's go to jazz show.
yes.
Yeah, and
So,
like
you
we
know.
all kind of make a practice
'Cause
of
that-
going to see it live. Like,
because that's
let's
important. Like
put money in the artist's pockets.
jazz
Like,
consumption.
you have to
it's
experience
important
it live.
to experience it live.
You have to.
Because it's not the
You have
same
to. It's
as
not
it
the
goes
same.
in the album. It's not. It's not.
Because I have to talk about Kuchenga, because Kuchenga, seeing Kuchenga live.
And they were at was it last year or
Yeah.
at Cape Jazz? Where
Yes,
were we?
yeah, they were at Cape
'cause
Jazz.
They were,
and
they
they're there
had a
this
couple
year as
of,
well.
like, 'cause
But
they were
they
at,
are, so they did
Guitar as
quite
well,
a
I
few
remember.
shows, last year,
Yeah.
and I saw them at Untitled Basement, which is one
And I
of my
didn't even
favorite
realize
places.
they were.
But they
no,
are-
I'm thinking of Kokoroko. Kokoroko
Oh,
is British,
Kokoroko's
right?
UK
Yes.
British, but very much a group, which I mean is also another conversation, because jazz, the makers of jazz feel younger nowadays. So if I think of Kujenga and Kokoroko,
Yeah,
and
yes,
even
yeah,
people like Ezra Collective,
Yeah.
it's like people our age, like
Yeah.
late 20s and their
Yeah.
30s. Those two specifically UK based. Very, the people in the band are like within the diaspora, which is also really interesting. Like some are from Nigeria, some are from like Liberia, just like Malawi, just Ethiopia. So you can feel the
Yeah.
connection point there, and like
Yeah.
the interpretation of the African jazz that they grew up with, but then also the UK scene and how those kind of blend together.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But yeah, Kujenga also like very young. Like a lot of them are 20s, 30s. I
mean,
want to say no
yeah.
one is older than 35.
Yeah. They
I-
are young.
I
They
could
are
be
young. They're, like,
mistaken,
music
but yeah,
students.
like music students, friends, some
Yeah.
are siblings and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's cool that the kids do really love jazz.
Yeah, I definitely think jazz is alive. It's alive in the community. It's alive because in the Brother Moves On era, there's always a jazz. There are always bands. I
Yes,
think of
the
Kwani
muffins
Experience,
as
the Muffins,
well. What happened
Kwani
to the
Experience,
muffins?
Blackjacks. The Brother Moves On. The
Yes.
Brother Moves On seems older now, but like
Yes, but they were the young guys at
they
the
were
time.
They
Yeah.
were young and they were part of a league of bands. They were in the era of Kwani Experience and them and Blackjacks and Organized Distortion. Like
Yes, I
jazz has
remember.
been alive. Jazz keeps like jazz. The bands
Evolving in a way, yeah.
keep coming back out.
The
Like
Blackjacks, they were the rock band. No?
Yes, they were the rock
Yes,
band.
yeah,
They
yeah.
really were my favorite.
Okay, I'm remembering correctly, 'cause I was like,
because
I remember them as a rock
they then forayed into my favorite alternative rock, which is like which is like this marriage of punk and alternative and
Yeah.
acid and African and and we also have to speak about like the influence of the continent as well, of your fellas and your Malian producers, your
Oliver Mtukudzi.
yes,
as well.
Zimbabwe
Oliver is
Aibo.
huge in South Africa.
Oliver Mtukudzi Niti.
Hi, Bo. Tony
Neria.
Sendeni. What shall we do? What shall
Zimbabwe
we do?
as well.
No, genuinely.
Zimbabwe as well.
The connect-
So important. Angola, Zimbabwe, Mali.
All of the places.
Like,
which, interestingly enough, those are the places where South Africans were in exile.
yes,
during
exactly.
apartheid. So
And it
there's
just
that
tells you so
historical
much about
connection as well.
the music as well. How music was so important in the resistance. Like celebration is always like music keeps us going. It's how jazz was also like it was used as a vehicle to communicate, especially when activists died or when people died. Like it was a thing to then have like like gatherings of like music,
like remembrance
at and also there's also the choral
aspect
of it,
like
the channel, choral,
the choir,
like the choirs,
the gospel undertones, and honestly,
gospel.
Even the gospel undertones that you can hear a lot in piano as well. Like Amapiano is very spiritual. Like when you listen to the lyrics, it's not as much as we're locked drum and
Amapiano is mind blowing.
It's really
because
like
the kids
really layered.
Are spiritual. They are smart about it. They're like, it's such a cool genre, bro.
It's
like
all
it's
in the
dance,
music.
But it's also just like uplifting, like really, really dope.
Like
faves.
It's faves. Ooh, faves.
Faves.
Okay, faves. I will say, it's so hard. Okay, faves.
It is
all-time
hard.
faves.
It is hard.
All-time faves. I'm gonna have to say Sibongile Khumalo. I got to see her with family years ago
Sibongile Khumalo, man.
at UNISA. I want to say it was ages ago.
Because she was
But
always
it was
in the opera shows.
So
as
she
well.
kind of did. And it felt very much like her, there was a CD in the house, the Live at Market Theatre.
Oh,
CD.
yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
it felt very remnant of that. But it was absolutely wonderful. So Sibongile for me is like
out
of
up
this
there.
world.
Right up there.
Tandis was also like right up there.
Yeah.
For me, Kujenga, very much like what feels like new age South African jazz in a way.
Yeah.
Super electric when you see it live. Like hearing him for Honey live, because it was one of those songs. It's 11 minutes. I think I saw them the first time, they didn't do it, and it was like we ran out of time. And the second time they did it, and everyone was just like, "This is like you have no words," you know.
And how many band
But even their song like Lesedi,
Virginia?
where everyone will sing live, everyone will sing the horn section, to your point. Like, we will da 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 da.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's 7 or 8 of them.
Oh yeah,
7
I
or
love
8.
that as well.
Something
That's
around
right.
that. It's like
There's
7 or
always
8.
thousands of them in the band. And
And even still using the music for politics and like speaking to what's happening here in Palestine and whatever, and like speaking to that even in the live performances. So like them, there's so many people. I'm like, there's Bukani Daya, there's
Bukani
Zoe,
Daya,
Keenan Mayers as well. Incredible pianist. Incredible pianist.
Oh, wow.
Like just
piano as well. The keyboard is something that we're good at.
The piano. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm like
my absolute favorite.
Who are your faves?
I
can go on.
Number one, who is master of the piano, Moses Daiwa Muleleko.
Oh,
who the kids have adapted so well.
Yeah.
He is, every time I listen to Genes and Spirit, it's my first album on life. That album I like. Yeah, I really appreciate also his impact, his influence on the industry. Like, he's so iconic and legendary. Don Laka, Stimela, Sankomota. Oh, bruh, like Simpiwe Dana also had a Simpiwe Dana phase. Like, shout out to the vocalist. Shout out to the listen, hey. Your and Tandi Nduli always between Exiled and Black Elijah. That's just, I know she just came out. Well, not just, but recently.
Oh,
came
yeah.
out with Rainbow Revisited. But Exiled.
That Rainbow Revisited was
good.
Excellent.
It's good. But for me, Exiled and Black Elijah are right up there, because I know she won the Standard Bank Young Artist Award for Exiled. And Exiled, like Tandi Nduli, guys, woo! Tandi Nduli is a genius, hey? She's a genius because she's also a pianist. She is also just like, she's outstanding, and she plays this instrument which is big in Bakanga music as well, which is like a keyboard.
What is? I've seen her play that thing. What is it? And I always forget what it's called.
And she calls it. She has a name for it. She has a name for it. It's like a black mamba thing.
She's so
huge black piano guitar thing. And I'm just like, and then the music is amazing because she's so, and what I love about Tandi as well is her compositions they always lean into, she always brings the sound of nature into things, like the wind, the air, the rain, which is
those
also
natural,
something
true,
like,
true.
I'm such a huge fan of
and
Tandi,
and I think of Indaba that's this one.
Oh, yes. Where everyone collaborated on that.
That was probably one of the best like collaborations.
Yes,
that
the brother
album,
is on
the
there.
brother Muzana's Bukani is on there, Tandi's on there.
Yes, Abo no Si are on there. Yes,
like that was such a good, probably like one of my favorite compilations. Compilations.
Nice.
Yes,
and it's a nice
like
compilation.
In a long time of like this Indaba now.
Yeah,
this is the news. This is South African jazz. Like it's. Yeah, like very cool.
Yeah,
that I would love on vinyl.
Yeah, they have
that. I need to find on vinyl,
and it's
because that like really good.
Stick. It's quite the stick, and I also love the brother. I mean, you just have to. Yeah, the brother moves on is just so
good
and relatable, and they're accommodating. Like, I know Sia does a lot of work in the community as well. I know he's Tuesday Funk. That's his initiative.
Oh, really?
That's his, you know.
That's
And
so cool.
I saw something about like recently a new band, Operation
Kataza. Operation Kataza. Yes. So
I
they
know
are
that he's
kind of
also
they
involved
kind
in
of
that.
sit in that makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
So Operation
Sia
Kataza,
is-
they sit in the pocket of like jazz, but also with undertones of rock elements as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because rock is
Like
ours, guys. Rock is ours.
They
It's
sit
ours.
there.
You know?
But it's cool. I was
Yeah.
like, you guys are cool. Yeah, because they played a show with amongst the people I know. He's a drummer, and he's also like drummed so
Drumming
many
as well.
festivals.
I think of Dumi Mokhorosi, hey?
So many festivals. He's been a festival drummer at Afropunk and Opi and
Ooh, Opi, the
Bushfire
festivals.
and like
Bushfire.
all of the festivals he's drummed. So now, and he's been like drumming for so many
Yeah,
local artists. So
yeah.
yeah, he actually had his first show this Saturday with Deboho. But
Nice.
yeah, so his
'cause I
stage
saw
name
that.
is amongst the people I know. Yeah, is his
Okay,
stage,
interesting.
his
The
stage
names
name is like a
always are
band.
so cool. I
I was
love
like,
them.
this is like the name of a band. But yeah. So Operation Kataza was also on the
Yeah.
run up with Mam Thug as well. But
Mum Thug,
Mum
yeah,
Thug,
always
come on,
so
Lizzie.
great. And also a special shout out to the selectors and the DJs and the vinylists who are pushing the music, the jazz into the community, you know.
It's not going unnoticed.
It's not going unnoticed.
It's not.
Like, you know, I think of DJ Bubbles, Bob the DJ, Mum Thug as well. Like, a lot of people are regurgitating the music, which is what we need. It's a form of archiving. It's a form of archiving.
Yeah,
It's
and giving us
important.
spaces to listen and enjoy it and
Yes, you
dance
know,
to.
and
Even
discover.
space,
Yeah.
even the neighborhood as spaces.
Yes, you know, those spaces, Untitled.
Yeah,
the Dives,
Untitled. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
really
you know,
good.
what else?
Marabi Club as well,
Marabi.
which was obviously named after Marabi.
Marabi
Beautiful
Club is
venue,
amazing
for live music. So
what a pristine venue.
we're trying to keep. And I mean, I know that there's so many spaces in other cities because we're just talking about Job. And I mean, even in Cape Town. Did you know Open Wine? Open Wine does the
has
Sunday
their-
jam
yes,
sessions.
I saw that. So
I keep seeing
interesting.
that.
It's an
And I'm
open
like,
mic.
The next time I'm there, I'm gonna go. Yeah, it's
vibe.
genuinely open mic jam
and I
sessions.
love
There's a
Open
band.
Wine.
There's what, and I enjoy
'Cause I
Open
love
Wine
their
as well.
wine as well.
Yes,
you know? They've got
Hey.
a collection. They've got a good collection.
and
you know?
wine is so mindful in Cape Town.
Yeah,
So mindful.
it's just
That's our wine country, you know.
like, listen,
Cape Town
just need to get on a plane right now
That is
and
our
go
wine
on a
country.
tram and go like.
Don't threaten
Listen,
me with a good time.
like
No, but genuinely, South African jazz is just so wonderful, so great.
so great. I
Yeah.
also do want to shout out special mention to music journalists, like because the archiving is so essential, and I
It's
don't
necessary.
I don't know how else to punt the fact that it's so urgent. Like I think
We
of
have to tell
Brenda
our stories.
Sisani and Kaya
Yes,
FM, like
and Kaya FM and that show,
Twala's like
100%.
like, you know, and you as well, my friend, you as well. Like, you know, it's so important to just tell the story of our music because, like, the colonizers, and it's interesting when you talk about J. Cole, and I also think of Beyonce coming here to do her videos and take
Then
out
she
dances
said it
and
was
everything.
Mozambique dancers, and we all went, "What? How dare you?
What I mean?
Dare you?" I remember that
Because it's like the colonizing is happening from our brothers and sisters from the States as well. You know what I mean? And I'm not cool with that. So we need to tell our
It can
own
get
stories. We need
weird
to talk about our
sometimes.
own music.
Yeah.
So shout out to that as well. Like archiving needs to be, it needs to be an industry. It
Just
needs to be
better,
prioritized. Hey,
That's where government money and funding must go to archiving.
government doesn't really even support
Department of
the
Arts and Culture, come on.
You know, support the arts, bro.
Support the arts, bro. And to the artists, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Love
We
what
love
you're
you.
doing.
We love you. Keep
Genuinely,
going.
keep going. We are here to listen.
Yeah, we are
We're here
here
to
to
enjoy
buy.
it.
We are here to support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazz, South African jazz.
Thank you. Drop your favorite jazz artist.
Yes,
talk to us
because
about
it is jazz.
Yeah, it's like jazz. It's International Jazz Day, I think, end of April. But
so
we're in the thing
let's
of
show
it.
the people why we are the best when it comes to music.
Yes.
When it comes to music generally, you know.
Genuinely.
Alrighty.
Okay, thanks. Catch us. Follow us everywhere at Black Sterring.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Black Sterring.